Hello, it's Donalyn. So today I'm sharing 4 disagreements or things I've had to learn to divorce myself from since I turned 24 about 2 weeks ago. These are some things that I've been learning over the years. Some of them are things that I learned just this year, but nonetheless, I think that they're 4 important lessons that I want to share, and they've helped me, and I hope that they help you as well. Okay, so number 1 is preconceived notions or just preconceptions in general. So because of coming of age in a pandemic, I was 19 going on 20 when the pandemic started. It was really a formative time for me, going from my teenhood to my adulthood. And I was also in the middle of my university years, my undergraduate years. And so something that I recognized very quickly is that you have to divorce yourself from whatever preconceived notions you have in life about what something is supposed to look like. Because a lot of times you have, the college experience is supposed to be this, and you're supposed to be partying and having a good time. I didn't plan on doing a whole lot of partying in either case, but what it became was not at all what I expected. So going from my freshman year to my sophomore year, my school tried to kick me out like 4 different times, or it was a process of being kind of disciplined like 4 different times in my first year of school. My second year of school, got a congressional internship, wasn't able to go, applied to 3 schools to transfer, got in, wasn't able to go because of the congressional internship that I wasn't able to do, right? And so all along, you're thinking that it's gonna be one thing, you're kind of trudging along, doing your little thing, and then things just happen in the way that they do, right? And so early on, this was really difficult for me to deal with, but as time went on, I learned how to pivot, and I learned how to pivot faster. Because a lot of times we can pivot and we can make the switch, but what the pandemic forced me to do was to pivot quickly. And that came with a lot of emotionality at the time, but I think now I'm someone who's better for it because I'm able to pivot and process, because what I wasn't doing initially was processing my emotions in real time. So you have a lot of that just got kind of stuck and harbored, but now being on the other side of it and looking back, I've been able to process a lot of the emotionality that existed in that season. And I've also had so many wonderful experiences, I think, since then that I feel whole, if that makes sense. It feels reconciled. It doesn't feel like I missed anything. And so I'm very grateful for that. Okay, number 2 is freeing or divorcing myself from the notion that I've got this, or I can do this, or I have this handled. So I don't know where this comes from. Maybe it comes from kind of the individualistic culture that we exist in, but we have this belief that we're more than enough and we can do everything. There's actually a book titled More Than Enough by a wonderful journalist named Elaine Welteroth. I love the book. I've read it, I think, twice now, or read it and listened to it. And it's a phenomenal book, but it's actually interesting because I reject pretty much the whole premise of it, that you are capable, right? You have to reconcile your incapability and get to the feet of Jesus very frequently. Because what I found is that when I feel like I'm trying in my own strength, not only do I not get to where I'm trying to go, but I'll stress myself out and make myself anxious in the process. And so even though it's like, we're girl bossing close to the sun, you realize like, this is actually burning me, right? And so even when you are able to achieve what you want or achieve what you think that you want, you realize that you have the scars to show for it. And so something I've had to reconcile for myself is that you don't have all the answers. You're not capable of all things. So not only asking for help when I need it, which is something that's very, very new for me. I ask for help, which, wow, what a concept. Who would have thought? I ask for help when I need it. I ask for opportunities when I want them, which is not so new. I've been in people's business asking for stuff for a time, but I think it's very important to reconcile your incapability, your lack of capacity, so that you can allow God to be big and to show up in your life. Because a lot of times we'll self-deify, and that can get us into more trouble than maybe just acknowledging, I don't got it, I don't have it, I'm not that girl, and that's okay. So yeah. Number 3 is in a very similar vein, and it's freeing yourself from the notion that you will someday obtain it. This is probably the newest one to me because I still can't fathom that you can not just work and then just be set. or in a place of, not a place of complacency, but like, okay, I got this. This is chill. This is relaxed. Because I realized that every time I kind of get to that place of maybe stagnance or feeling like accomplished, God will shake up my situation and I'll be in a completely different space, in a completely different area. For example, this year, I've been on set a couple of different times. I did a commercial for the first time. I got to be second team, doubling for a lady named Monica McNutt. Super dope individual. And I've also gotten to be on set with Michael Cordy as kind of a PA, second AD kind of role. And the thing that was really interesting about this is that they were not things that I had done before at all, right? I've attended a lot of things relative to the music space. I'm also applying for something that's very new to me. And so it's just, God is forcing me out of my comfort zone in that way and problematizing that sense of like, okay, well, if I didn't have it back then, I definitely have it now. And so it makes me think of like a singer or an athlete or really anyone in any profession, especially the creative ones. You have to continually hone your skills. There are phenomenal singers that we know who have vocal coaches. There are wonderful athletes that we know that get up at 5 a.m. every morning and put in the work. And so even though we see the shiny things in life, people see the Harvard graduations and the undergrad graduations and all of the things that you accomplish, the very LinkedIn aesthetic of life, you have to do the work every day and you have to show up for it and be ready for it. And so that's something that I'm still getting into, still recognizing that life will always present new challenges and new things to be addressed, be ameliorated, but not just that, but new things to discover and a beautiful sense of novelty that you can acknowledge if you're looking for the good and not necessarily so concerned about what's not great, right? So that's number 3, I think. That's number 3 for sure. It's number 3. Okay, number 4, and probably the hardest to grapple with, but not the newest that I'm reconciling, is you have to free yourself from the belief that things will be easy. And I'm not just talking about the fact like you shouldn't experience any turmoil or tumult, but last year was probably one of my hardest years, both physically, not necessarily emotionally. I think I was still in good spirits, but my body was going through a skin condition for about 4 or 5 months. From November to December, I had about 18 to 21, I think, nosebleeds, sometimes twice a day. And so I was at the doctor last year more than I probably had ever been, like in my life, in a calendar year or in a birth year, whatever, however you slice it, right? So I was at the doctor a lot last year, and something I realized, I was also trying to nourish things into existence creatively. And what I realized in that time, I was also reading the Bible. Wow. I read the Bible in 6 months. Ask about me. Anyways, but what I realized in those 6 months is that God does not owe you ease. God does not owe you prime conditions, and life doesn't really owe you anything. And so because there's work that still needs to be done, you need to be about the business of doing it. It really felt last year like I was, you know, when you're go-karting somewhere and you get to a certain spot and you like hit the wall and you just are running into that rubber wall, and then they're like, put it in reverse. And you're like, I'm just running into this rubber wall, Terry. It was not going into reverse at all, right? And so I felt like I was stuck. I felt like I couldn't get out of what I was in, kind of that like rut that I was in, right? But I recognize that there's still work to be done. In 2 Timothy 4:2, Paul tells Timothy to preach the word in and out of season. And I think that's something that's so important because he lists all these things of what he's going to encounter. A lot of people who don't want to experience sound doctrine, right? But he's called to preach the word of God. And so what Paul was very clear about is that this thing is not going to be easy. It's not going to be cut and dry. It's not going to be just puras vibes like all the time, right? But you still have to do the work. The work has to get done. So whether it's an in season and you're living your best life and enjoying things, right? Or whether it's the season where things are hard and you're going through it and it's your Job season. Imagine you're reading Job and you're also having like 2 nosebleeds a day. Interesting time in life. But yeah, so whatever you're going through, whatever you're encountering, still get to the work. Understand that rest needs to be centered as well, and you need to treat your body with kindness, but still show up and do the work that God has called you to do. Because life is always gonna have, if it ain't your wife, it's the kid. If it ain't your husband, it's the dog. If it ain't the dog, it's somebody else, right? If it ain't the school, it's the job. Like, life is going to life at every possible point that it can. So what you need to do is what you need to do, okay? So those are some things that I've recognized and had to divorce myself from or disagree with over these last few months. And so they've helped me. I'm still growing into them. The shoes feel a little bigger than me on some days, but again, that's why we're daily renewing our mind. You're never going to get to a place of arrival. You don't arrive. You simply exist in and strive to be who God has called you to be every single day. Okay? So that's all he asked of me. So I hope that's all he asking of you. I don't know if y'all are on God Premium. So have a great day. I hope you enjoyed the video. Take a little something for the road and be blessed. Out.